What is happening, guys? My name is Jamie. Today we are going back to Dream Theater. That's right, Dream Theater just released a live album. Now, I don't have the actual DVD, unfortunately, and I don't have the actual CD, but I did listen to it on stream through Apple Music, and I got to say that, wow, this particular album is something very different by Dream Theater, because they don't really play their classics like Octavarium and even stuff from Images and Words and You Wake album. They play their modern classics. Not to mention they also play the entire Metropolis Part 2 Scenes from a Memory album live. So they have played live on another album called Scenes from New York or something like that, which is another fantastic live album. Dream Theater have released a few live albums in their discography. A previous live album was Breaking the Fourth Wall, which was an absolutely fucking fantastic, one of my favorite live albums by Dream Theater, but it doesn't compare to the massive magnum opus score we got back in 2006. So how did this compare to the other live albums by Dream Theater? Well, I gotta say, Distant Memories live in London was an absolute banger. It sure was, and there were some incredible moments on this album. So I did pre-order mine. I did pre-order Distant Memories, the DVD, the live concert and everything, and that apparently not going to come out in Australia until the 29th of fucking January 2021. That is a very long time. So honestly, what can I say about this album? 21 tracks are present on this live album, going on for about 2 hours and 30 minutes. So it is a pretty long album, but as we all know, all live Dream Theater albums are pretty long. Breaking the Fourth Wall was like 2 hours and 40. They do play songs from the Distance Over Time album, the latest album. Also Black Clouds and Silver Linings, Systematic Chaos as well, and they do play the whole entire Scene from a Memory, one of the best concept albums of all time, Metropolis Part 2 Scenes from a Memory. So let's talk about the production on this album. Production is fucking fantastic, it really is. I love the tone of Magini's drums on this. I love how reverby the drums sound on this album. John Mayon's bass is quite prominent throughout some of these songs, especially through the prominent parts of Scenes from a Memory. John Petrucci fucking stars on this, incredible guitar solos. And we also got Jordan Rudess, who does his bibbity-bibbity stuff, who is a beast on keyboard, and some amazing keyboard solos throughout this album. And none other, we got James LaBrie. A lot of people are probably questioning, well, Jamie, how does James LaBrie sound? James LaBrie's vocals are poetry in motion on this album. He sounds fantastic, especially through Scenes from a Memory. There is so much to talk about with this album. So James does sound fantastic on this. There are a few songs that are a bit of hit and miss with his vocals, because it seems like when James reaches those high notes now, it seems like he can't reach them, and he sounds like a banshee at times. I just feel that he's sort of adjusted his vocals throughout this live album, because he definitely didn't get to those high notes that he usually gets to, such as Beyond This Life. Beyond This Life, he has different vocal tones throughout. And on Beyond This Life, he says Aldita traveled far, a little bit different. He says far a lot different than what he usually says. So instead of elongating the far, he goes far, like. It's really interesting, his vocal tone throughout some of this album, which I really love, especially on Beyond This Life. And he does incorporate a few screams on this particular live album as well, especially through Finally Free. Finally Free, he belts out this huge scream. The production on this album is fucking fantastic. I love the production. Magini is a star on this album, he really is, and he does play Mike Portnoy's part so damn well, especially through A Nightmare to Remember. Yes, that's right, they play A Nightmare to Remember. The first time I've ever heard A Nightmare to Remember be played, and holy shit, it sounds exactly like a studio version, except of James LaBrie's vocals, especially doing Mike Portnoy's part, because instead of the growls that Mike Portnoy provides on A Nightmare to Remember that he used to provide, James LaBrie incorporates some really eerie vocals. I felt giddy inside listening to his vocals, especially on Mike Portnoy's. It's like day after day. You know that part, that passage? I love that part. But James LaBrie added a new dimension, especially with his vocals on that particular passage. And yeah, Labrie sounds fantastic. Untethered Angel, I feel like Labrie struggles in Untethered Angel, especially that chorus. He can't get to those high notes. He at times does sound a little bit off tune. Fall Into the Light is fantastic as well. Love Fall Into the Light. And not to mention the crowd go along with Petrucci's guitar lead. Like, whoa, whoa, so damn good. I just love the crowd chanting throughout that song. Barstool Warrior is another pretty awesome song. In the Presence of Enemies Part 1, I really love it. I love the different odd time signatures, and Labrie sounds fantastic. So we finally hear Pale Blue Dot. Pale Blue Dot is a modern day masterpiece by Dream Theater. It took me a while to really enjoy that song, but holy shit, I love it now. I really do. And I love Labrie's vocals on this and Petrucci's guitar moments. So now we move on to disc 2, which is part of Scenes from a Memory. All members shine on this. All members shine, including Labrie. The soaring moments, especially throughout Beyond This Life. Labrie does struggle throughout Strange Déjà Vu, in my opinion. He just can't reach those high notes. It's a really high chorus at times. He does sound a little bit off tune on Strange Déjà Vu, but the rest of the second disc, he nails most of the notes. Overall, Dream Theater stay true to the original Scenes from a Memory, because there's nothing really improv on this. Sometimes they do improvisation with long instrumentals. Nothing really new on this. I really love the Dance of Eternity. They nailed every single time signature. And Home is great as well. Home is great. Really love Mayon's bass throughout Home. And the ballad The Spirit Carries On is overall a lot of emotion. Labrie does convey a lot of emotion. At times he struggles to get to those high notes, but I do love how he controls himself. No added extras on The Spirit Carries On. We get Finally Free. Finally Free is fantastic. This is when Labrie incorporates a few harsh vocals on this, which I absolutely loved. I really did. It really lifted up the song in the next caliber. There's only one part where he does incorporate harsh vocals, how he just gets to that scream, which I love. His vocals sound fantastic on this. And what is very interesting is the overall conclusion of Finally Free. I feel like that, yeah, Magini's drumming becomes really technical on this particular song, Finally Free, especially on the outro. And it doesn't sound, and he makes it his own, this song. At times it feels like really off timing, but it really works as well. Of course, it's got that famous outro with Open Your Eyes, Nicholas. Seen from a Memory, the performance is absolutely fantastic, although I feel it's not the best performance of Scenes from a Memory, because they didn't really add anything new, which they didn't have to, because I know, like, in the other Scenes from a Memory, on Scenes from New York, they added a few more extra bits, like in The Spirit Carries On and Through Her Eyes. Nothing really much I can say about it. It's just an absolute masterpiece of an album, and they really did it justice. Then they finish off with At Wit's End. At Wit's End is a fantastic song. I'm finally starting to really appreciate this song. I love the solos, and finally get an alternative version of the ending, which is absolutely fantastic. I just love how this ends. Petrucci absolutely shreds on this. I just love Labrie's vocals on this. Labrie, there's so much emotion. At Wit's End is a great way to finish off the concept. We get a bonus track called Paralyzed. Yeah, not a big fan of this song live, to be honest. Labrie doesn't sound very good on this. I don't know, he does not sound very good. That's probably why it's a bonus track. Paralyzed is still a pretty good song, but I just feel Labrie's vocals were a little bit off on this. Man, James Labrie sounds fantastic on this album. Most of the album, John Petrucci sounds amazing. Magini sounds fantastic as well. I just love how technical his drumming is on this. Jordan Rudess, which sounds really good as well. He creates this atmosphere. At times he incorporates symphonic elements, especially throughout songs like A Nightmare to Remember, At Wit's End, even In the Presence of Enemies Part 1. It's so great to hear A Nightmare to Remember live, and it's also great to hear the new songs as well live. So overall, it's a pretty solid album. It's 2 hours and 30 minutes, but holy shit, I had fun listening to it. Because it's not a normal album, it's a live album. Like the Iron Maiden album, we'll be giving it out of 5. So for Dream Theater Distant Memories, it is a 4.5 out of 5. A very enjoyable album. At times there's a few hit and miss vocal notes by James Labrie, but James Labrie nails most of the songs. What I would have liked also is the set list. Is that the set list was a little bit strange in my opinion. Maybe add a few more other classics. Like, I don't know, you could have added Caught in the Web, or even Learning to Live, or something like that, or maybe even the magnum opus Octavarium to end off the album. But yeah, what can I say? This is a solid modern day Dream Theater album, and I fucking well enjoyed it. So guys, comment below if you enjoyed this album. Do you agree or disagree with my opinion? Keep discussion, go in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one.